You'll hear Dottie often, but I'm glad that you have joined us this evening. As at all of our meetings, we do have Spanish interpretation. And for interpretation, please connect using a tablet or a computer. You will see at the bottom right of your screen a globe icon, and you do need to select the language of your choice, even if your language of choice is English.
Bueno, pues les doy las bienvenidas a todos a esta reunión del Comité Consultativo. Como siempre, ustedes saben, tenemos interpretación en nuestras reuniones. Estas reuniones son bilingües. Se hacen el favor de ver en la parte inferior de su pantalla y seleccionar el globito de la interpretación. Y de esa manera pueden escoger el idioma de su preferencia.
Great.
Thank you, Anthony.
Yes, Francisco, one more item. We are recording this meeting, and the recording has started, and then probably by next week we will have the recording of this meeting in both English and Spanish on our webpage. And so with that, we can go to the next slide.
Anthony, make sure you put
Yep,
Francisco over. Okay.
I'm going to do that right. Uh-oh.
Well, Anthony is doing that. This is Catherine. I'm really glad to be joining you here tonight. I'll be your facilitator for the evening. And we have three, actually, I'm going to say 2.5 because 2 are related, but 2 main topics for tonight's meeting. The first one is the 8th Avenue Bridge replacement. A nice update about that from Bailey. And then Chris is going to take us through the Sun Valley Redevelopment Master Plan and the 13th Avenue improvements. We have till 7 o'clock, and I think we'll be able to do both of those or all 3 of those projects within the time allotment. So why don't we just go ahead and get started and with the 8th Avenue Bridge replacement. And I think we can probably, there we go. And start out with Bailey.
Everyone, my name's Bailey. I am the communications person on 8th Avenue. I'm here to answer any of your questions and communicate what our project goals are. Next slide. So as locals of the area, I'm sure you guys are aware of the overwhelming need for this project. This bridge, when we began, was 92 years old. Definitely needed some rework. It had really narrow roadways, not a lot of space for any accidents in that area. And it had 1 3-foot shoulder sidewalk, which is obviously not large enough for safety throughout the area. And then they also had the outdated trail connections to the South Platte River Trail below. So as you can see, the existing alignment, it had 1 eastbound through lane, 1 eastbound turning lane, and then 2 westbound through lanes, and then that 3-foot sidewalk area. Our goals for this project, as you can see in the future alignment, are to increase that safety and comfort. So we're going to have wider lanes to allow a little more buffer zone. We're going to be adding an additional eastbound through lane, so there will be a little less backup there. We're going to be putting 2 sidewalks, 1 on either side, and they're 10-foot sidewalks, so definitely a lot safer over that bridge there. And just generally doing better in the area for that trail connection as well. So really excited about that. Next slide. So here is a map of our project. Starting from the left, we are going to be adding additional lighting throughout the corridor, which is really helpful for that safety aspect, as well as replacing some of those aging driveways just to tie into the new roadway. You can see the trail there in purple. We are going to be replacing a section of that trail, making it wider under the bridge there, and then also replacing those trail connections to the 8th Avenue Bridge on top. And we're going to be putting in those safety retaining walls in between the trail below and the trail up top, which they did not have before. A little sketchy in that area. Above on top, we are going to be adding that second additional eastbound lane, as I said before, adding 10-foot shoulders on each side of the bridge, upgrading and improving just the general area with curbs and better ADA compliant crossways. We're going to be replacing the signal system at 8th and Zuni. It's a little outdated now. And then we're also going to be adding a trail connection there at Frog Hollow Park at 8th Avenue.
Can we just stop Bailey for a minute to see if
Yeah.
anybody has any questions? Comments on the map so far? You can raise your hand or wave at me, whatever. Is it Stephen, right?
Oh, no, my name is Shane.
Shane, sorry.
No problem. I was wondering if this ties into any improvements along Frog Hollow Park.
All that we're going to be doing on this project is adding that additional connection to 8th Avenue on the east side. But I think future improvements will come along later down the road.
I remember some plans to do some soft surface trails through the park. And as I recall, last time I looked, it looks like it could use some activation. And this would be a nice way to catalyze that. I'm sure that's a separate topic, but thanks.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thanks, Shane.
Other questions or comments? I know there's a lot going on, so feel free to stop me if you need any clarification.
Okay, thanks, Bailey.
Next slide. So here's just an overall schedule of our project. We started in the area in September of last year. In October, we put down that full closure of the bridge. As you know, it's pretty hard to replace a bridge if it's still got cars across it. So we did implement that full closure over the bridge. During this time, we've demolished the bridge, as you can see in that picture on the left. That was back in November. We are now installing the new portion of the bridge, as you can see in that picture on the right. That is actually them installing one of, let me just double check my numbers here, 28 new concrete girders. Each of those girders actually weighs 116,000 pounds. So imagine installing 28 of those heavy girders across the South Platte River. We now have installed all 28 of those and are currently working on the concrete deck on top. Throughout this closure, we're also going to be repaving those trail connections and the trail underneath and replacing that signal. All of that work will be wrapped up next month. So we plan to open the new bridge to traffic in May, which is really exciting. And then we will be hanging around for about a month, just finalizing some environmental stuff, replanting some seeding, grass, and just installing those new curb and gutters. So this summer we will be completed. Very exciting.
That is exciting. I have a question. Is art in public places 1%? Where will we see that?
I'm sorry,
The art in public places, will we have art along art installations or?
I haven't heard of any on our project yet. Hopefully it's a really great area for some of that improvement.
Other questions, comments?
I think Lisa in the chat, the plans look great. Looking forward to using it. We are as well. We're really excited for you guys to get on this bridge. It's going to be really nice, comfortable, and allow that pedestrian and car traffic to just be a lot more safe across the bridge now.
Okay.
I have one more slide, I think. So here's our project hotline. It has a phone number and an email that goes to me. If you guys have any additional questions that you didn't ask here or want any of this information, feel free to contact me. I am happy to send anything over. You can also scan that QR code to go straight to our project webpage. And then I just thought I threw this in here. As a reminder, we do have that bridge closed currently. It'll be closed until next month. And that shows our detour routes.
Okay.
And
Thank you.
Bailey, sorry, this is Chris Belkey, DHA. I do have a slide on mine just because we're coordinating the other Elevate Denver Bond project, the 13th Avenue realignment. And knowing these unfortunately had to overlap, there was some questions from the Community Advisory Committee in Sun Valley around looking at that detour route. It looks like it did get moved to Federal, or is it still coming down Decatur as far as vehicle traffic going north?
It did get moved to Federal. It's just a better arterial roadway for the amount of traffic that we were detouring. And then using that 6th Avenue, Santa Fe on the east side, and then back under I-25 on 8.
Perfect. yeah, Decatur's pretty busy right now. So thank you for that.
Yes, it very is. We know because we are stopping traffic at it. So. Any questions? I see Shane, access to the river is great. Would be very cool to see that on the West Colfax Viaduct as well. Thanks for that comment.
Thanks, Shane. Thanks, Bailey.
No problem.
I'm excited to see it.
Yeah, we all are too. I'm happy to come back on when we've all wrapped up and show you guys pictures of the brand new bridge.
You know, having been a lifelong resident in Denver, you know, the 8th Avenue Bridge has a great history, and just in terms of sort of how it bounded the different neighborhoods. It was a real point of, I guess, demarcation in terms of neighborhoods. So I'm really anxious to see the difference, because it's certainly been there unfortunately longer than me.
Catherine? This is
Yes,
Tim, can I ask one or two questions?
you betcha.
Okay. One of the bigger challenges is going to be with Bronco games and how we manage both traffic flow and parking. For that large an increase, a number of people did use 8th Avenue before. That'll shift to 6th. Have you guys got any plans on how to manage that and what you'll do in those instances?
So we plan to be complete by next month. So we will have plenty of times before the Broncos game start, especially the preseason starts. But right now there are a few events coming up at, and I'm sorry, I'm in Vesco Field still. I'm such a native, it's grained into me, at Mile High. So we are coordinating the stadium on that, just to make sure we have adequate detour routes and messaging up to let people know.
Okay, and I'm sorry, for some reason I thought you were finishing May of 23. I totally missed it.
No, you're good.
Okay.
And then second question.
You addressed it with your answer for the first.
Okay, perfect. Easy enough.
Thanks, Tim. All right, let's move on to Chris. Chris is going to talk to us about Sun Valley and also 13th Avenue.
Great, thank you, Catherine. Thanks, Bailey. So I'm Chris Spelke. I'm the interim Chief Real Estate Investment Officer, Director of Development at the Denver Housing Authority, and happy to give you guys an overview of Sun Valley and all the work we have going on here. So this is a shot just as our cover with creating thriving communities. You can jump to the next slide, Catherine, thanks. And really what I'm focused on, the overall HUD Choice Neighborhood Initiative grant that allowed us to do all this work. There's really three primary focuses: obviously housing, neighborhood infrastructure, and people. I think that Annie unfortunately could not be here. She's traveling out of country, so I'm covering for her, but she talks and actually works at the People Center and oversees the People's team out there. So if you guys ever want to hear all the great initiatives that she's doing on that front, she can definitely come back and speak to this group, but certainly know the housing and infrastructure. So I can speak to this. So happy to be here. Jump to the next one, please. So this is the illustrated master plan and really sets the stage for both the housing and the infrastructure components. Phase one of our redevelopment of the previous 333 old Sun Valley Homes public housing units, which really was everything south of Fairview and 11th down to 9th. Yep, you got it. So that was across 30 acres. And so what we've done in the overall master planning effort and looking at offsite phases, one, to deconcentrate poverty, but also to align with other neighborhood infrastructure. We acquired, the Housing Authority acquired the two sites that you see as off-sites vacant parcels. One was actually part of the Stadium District's Lot N that abuts to the light rail station and up near the Federal Decatur light rail station. And then we had the Frontier Fire warehouse, which was on Holden, and there was a vacant parcel on the south side of the warehouse that is our Thrive site. And so those two are really what you see a lot of the cranes and work going on is our phase two of the overall housing plan. And we'll get into some pictures, but the gateways are fully leased up, 187 units. We also did some home ownership that I'll get into some detail. But really all our efforts right now are coordinating and working with the neighborhood group to make sure there's not too much interruptions on our phase 2 work, which includes the Greenhouse Thrive project and in alignment with the Elevate Denver Bond 13th Avenue project, which is what you see there in purple. And that'll actually bring in a new street, Bryant, that goes from 13th down to the existing Bryant and realign the grid. And that's where you're at right now. Everything south of 11th is our phase 3 projects, and combined with Sol and Jolie, we'll recreate the 333 public housing units into a total of 965 total mixed income family, affordable workforce, very low income, permanent replacement housing throughout approximately 12 acres that DHA will then own in perpetuity for the site. So we'll get into some more detail of how all that works down below, but this is really the housing plan that's been approved by HUD and what we're on track to get started and on to meet our obligations by the end of this summer, starting construction for phase 3. And so the Flow Senior, which is our 4th phase, we got support from the neighborhood group to do a rezone of that block to allow for that particular building to go up to 12 stories and really add a significant amount of affordable senior component. And really with the adjacency to the park and the amenities throughout this neighborhood that in partnership with the city and many others, that it made sense to have more density here. And so we had some great support, and that'll be taking place at the capstone and starting January of next year. But we'll get into some more of the timeline if we continue, but I can take any quick questions or we can hold to the end here.
I have a question. The names, I'm just interested in Greenhouse and Thrive, Sol and Jolie and Flow. Are there particular meanings to those names of those parcels? And are they all housing units and each of those, or is there mixed use?
It's a great question, Heather. Actually, my former boss, my predecessor, Ryan Tobin, worked with internal group to come up with these names, and partly because in some previous redevelopments the authority has done, we've always, had the HUD naming of phase 1A, 1B, and it always just stays those names. And for here, we were trying to think about, what could brand it and really, create names associated with each. So like the idea of Sol being the soul of the neighborhood, kind of centered the gateways into the neighborhood. I have to pick his brain on the Greenhouse, and which is a little out there, but thriving communities, and then Jolie and Flow, something that's kind of, catchy. And I think that's where he had named them. But as far as the question about mixed use, each of them have a component of a non-residential, commercial, or community serving ground floor activated space. So for Gateway South is where Decatur Fresh Market is. You can see these little bubbles, right? Those are the intentional ones from the HUD approved critical community investments. So we show those as what are actually being invested in partnership with the city, who's bringing dollars to help with the construction of those commercial spaces. So Decatur Fresh brings not only workforce training, but also services and retail and fresh food to the neighborhood that otherwise wouldn't. And then the number 2 there on the Jolie project, it'll be a standalone 7,000 square foot restaurant incubator space. We'll have 5 vendors for trying out different food as kind of their sticks and bricks retail outfit. And then there'll be a commissary kitchen that supports that and really create activity along that park and that promenade along 10th. And then Sol, it's not shown here, but we're doing intentional live work units that'll be affordable and really having smaller scale, both living and activated storefronts for smaller entrepreneurs to open up and really be kind of a revolving door there. Greenhouse has a 2,000 square foot retail bay, which is yet unprogrammed. And so we're thinking about some different partnerships there. And then Thrive has a 1,600 square foot commercial bay on the Bryant and Holden side. And that, we've been looking at different youth, family services, and childcare. There's no operator at this point in time. A lot of times we'll build the space out and then look to bring someone in after you can feel, touch, and see it, right? So those are kind of just placeholders for now, but and then as things go on, we'll have some future development parcels. Those 3 sites that you see there, we're working right now with our broker to bring in market rate investment, and there's design guidelines that really think about ways to activate in a mixed use format, particularly along the park and along 10th Avenue.
Where does the park construction come in terms of the phases?
And I do have a slide here that has
Oh, great.
the general timeline. We can get into it, but
Okay.
the
thank
phase
you.
1 of the park will be part of that. So this is talking about mixed use, is a northwest shot of our Gateway project, fully leased. This is the backside of the Gateway South, and that's where you can see the Decatur Fresh Market, that 2,000 square foot market. The Annie's team has done a great job in creating a nonprofit entity that owns and operates that. And if you guys haven't been down there, grab a coffee, grab a burrito, and you'll find some cool different food, fresh food, as well as just merchandise that you typically don't find at like a Marzix or elsewhere in Central Business District. So it's a really great program and one that we're excited about and appreciate anyone's support. So if you want to jump to the next one. So this is the Gateway row homes, and we should just get a shot it's complete. They've been sold. We intentionally looked at using 6, 3 of which were sold at market rate, and then that subsidized the affordable for sale component of the other 3, which is on the left side. One's an ADA unit. Those for qualified home buyers at 80% AMI. So that was a good win to have some homeownership right out of the gate, and it's adjacent to our Gateway North block. So that, and we'll continue looking at opportunities to do homeownership within DHA's redevelopments. We're carving out space for something like this, and hopefully get more homeownership to establish the neighborhood. Next slide, please. So this is a shot of the greenhouse development. Again, that's the one that's up at 13th in Decatur. So this is looking, as Bailey, I'm a native too, so I always think Mile High. So if you could see behind the blue building, that would be Mile High Stadium over the Gulch. And so we, in a lot of these projects, we looked at ways to, we're replacing larger, very low income public housing family units. And so we're integrating mixed income. And so in any given floor, there's non-income restricted, very low income, and workforce affordable, and different unit types from everywhere from 1-bedroom units to 5-bedroom units, which is very unique. So we're excited about this one. This will be 135 units total, and it's projected to be finished here at the end of January of next year. And you can see that one going up when you are crossing over the Colfax viaduct. And you can see there, that's the retail space on that bottom left side, which is going up Decatur. And this shot is the perspective from 13th. And then jump to the next one. This is Thrive project. And again, part of our phase 2. So they're almost going up at the exact same time. This one's 135 units. Again, a full mix of 1 to 5 bedrooms. We'll have 20% non-income restricted, or what is required for a mixed income requirement with HUD. But we're also discounting those below market, closer to like 80% AMI rents. And that's some larger family units. In fact, this corner right here, which is now looking southwest. So if you went right with your cursor, that's down Holden. So Holden down to Decatur, and then we're essentially standing in Bryant, the new Bryant Street. And soon enough, the tanks right behind us in this view will be down in the next couple weeks, actually. So that'll be nice to open this up and look into some public art opportunities along this this frontage that can be seen from I-25. And then the commercial here, or probably a nonprofit community service partner, is kind of on the left side of the stairwell, the active stairwell that you see there. Yeah, so it'll kind of hold that corner that's adjacent to the alley. And behind this, we're actually creating space within this, just like greenhouse. There for the smaller kids, we'll have like a dinosaur we were looking at, but now it's going to be a fox to kind of honor the spirit of the native landscape here in Colorado, but really for the smaller children, and then some active play with the basketball court and contemplated garden, community garden. And so it's kind of this range of looking at urban living, but also giving spaces within each of these buildings that provide amenities and recreation opportunities. And then it'll be fully parked 1-for-1 as well, with 2-story deck behind this building. Jump to the next one. So I love this shot because this is now, as we jump into what is now the cleared Sun Valley Homes proper, we're looking at 10th and the activation of 10th Avenue, and really right in the center. So if you could see through this passway, you would be walking right up to the front doorsteps of Fairview Elementary. So we're at 10th Avenue, and this would be a pass through to 11th. So Sol really did a lot to try to connect, all these critical elements that were part of the master plan as well as our housing development phases. And so this frontage here, stepping down a little bit in scale, but really intentionally trying to do 2-story live work units. So each of the ground floor activated spaces, we're gonna do some signage with a district, and we'll have, intentional, affordable, creative, and looking to work with other entrepreneurs to bring in essential services in these, what will be 14 live work units, 2-story, with lofts, and we'll have 4 of those will be 2 bedrooms. So we're excited about that. And then, we're also doing a lot of family units here, a lot of 3 bedrooms. And again, 20% will be non-income restricted, but a lot of the replacement, very low income and workforce affordable will be here. And then here behind this building, we'll have up to 20 pad sites for homeownership opportunities, and really thinking about stepping down in scale towards Fairview Elementary, and trying to integrate both rental and for sale product here. If you jump to the next one, as our Jolie, or should be the view. Yeah, so now we're getting another perspective, of course, west, our beautiful Rocky Mountains. And now you can kind of see the 10th Avenue that comes from Decatur, right, heading up that hill towards Federal, and then dead ending at the plaza that will be the Riverfront Park in partnership with the city and Denver Parks and Rec, as we've gone through the concept planning for that. And we have a slide that I'll get into some of the program elements, but this is a rendering we did to really show the scale and massing of Block 3, which is going to be part of our final phases here in Sun Valley. Jolie, and you can see the incubator space, right, which is that 7,000 square foot community commercial building, right, that we talked about. And then it's integrated into 133 unit mixed income multifamily, predominantly families, 2 bedrooms. And then we'll also have live work units here along the park. That'll be where that pass through is. And those were like Warren Tech, or Emily Griffith. I grew up in Lakewood, so I was always thinking about Warren Tech, but like Emily Griffith, for example, right? And some of the students graduating from there, like barbers and cosmetics, but also thinking about, more maker spaces that will be there, people that will activate that store frontage, and, have an integration of merchandise and food, and predominantly set aside for low income or people that are just trying to start out in their business. So that'll be exciting. And then as you kind of see, as you jump down from 10th to 9th Avenue, which is where Weir Gulch intersects with the Platte here, that is our 12-story Flow Senior, 212 units that'll be all affordable. And we're excited about that building. There's such a need for folks on fixed incomes. And that'll be a range from half will be very low income, and we'll have half up to 60% AMI. So it'll be a good mix of a senior population. And this whole integration in every redevelopment, we look to do intergenerational cohesive communities. And so that we're excited about this Block 3 and really activating the front of Riverfront Park. All right, and I think you jump to the next one. This will get to your, this is another shot. So now we flip flop, we're looking back east toward the Denver skyline. Now you can see that activation of the soul of 10th on our left side and how it integrates with Fairview. Gateways are kind of down on the bottom left here. And then we're working right now to design review as part of our design guidelines and standards approved by the community to work with developers on these two big blocks and make sure that they integrate with the vision and principles of the master plan. So it will be an exciting full build out of this really important Sun Valley neighborhood. And I think we're getting close here to the overall timeline. There you go.
Before we go to that, can we
Yeah, sure.
can we just ask folks if they, because that was a lot of slides to look at.
It
So
was. Yeah.
I just want to be sure that our CAG members, if they have any questions about any of those particular projects, that they have the opportunity to ask now. It's pretty impressive.
It's really impressive.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm impressed by the range of housing types and products. It's just, and how many different people you're going to be able to accommodate. Yeah.
Thank you, Beth. Yeah, I mean, it is pretty exciting to be working on this. I feel like at the end of the day here, even, trying to get investment from other market rate developers and really being intentional about how the other blocks, the 3 blocks that are set aside, 1, to help us support the infrastructure, but 2, to really build out the neighborhood to the scale that it should be in, and really hit the whole idea of this complete neighborhood in Denver, right? From people making no money at all to, the Class A multifamily, getting $3 per square foot in rent, right? Obviously, we're not going to do that, but then you get this whole continuum of housing all in one place. And it's pretty exciting to be part of that.
Other questions or comments from our CAG members? Not seeing any. Okay, thanks, Chris, for taking a pause. You want to go into the timeline?
Yeah, and I'll just be pretty quick because I know this slide may be kind of hard to read, but so this integrates with our master plan. So, right, if we're looking at the completion of phase 1, right, which was first quarter of 2021, and it just goes to show the timeline. These buildings are now taking close to 2 years to complete and start leasing up. So we'll be right online with Thrive and Greenhouse, those offsite developments coming online here January of next year. And there'll be site-based waiting lists. So people are definitely encouraged to be part of those communities. And we'll be sure to do a wide range of marketing when those come online. And then phase 3, we're working hard here to gear up for construction closing in July and by October for both of those blocks to start. And with the goal of those completing and coming online by the end of 2024. And then Flow is going to be starting construction in the first quarter of next year. And that'll take, 2 years to complete, but then that'll be done within 2025. And by then the Riverfront Park will be complete. We're hoping that we'll hold to our timeline for the overall infrastructure that will be done, which is south of 11th, by the end of 2023 for land sales and the other market rate blocks to take their start and get done by that same time frame as Flow. I think if you went down, I don't know if this got cut off, but we'll talk more to 13th Avenue realignment that aligns with the phase 2 housing developments. There's another slide for that, so we can jump into it. Yeah, here we go. I know this was going off Bailey, and so the Housing Authority had worked with Dottie early on because the city was part of as a co-applicant to the overall Sun Valley Neighborhood Transformation Plan and the Choice Grant with HUD. And part of their leverage in bringing investment to this neighborhood was to do the 13th Avenue realignment, and that was part of the 2016 general obligation big capital projects that created the Elevate program. And I think Dottie's very busy because I think there's 76 projects in any given phase. This one, as we were looking at our housing developments and how they interface with it, it made a lot of sense, just from efficiencies and both cost and timing for the authority to manage that on behalf of the city. And since we are quasi-municipal, we used an intergovernmental agreement to do that. So it's been a good partnership, and we through a lot of design and community input to make sure that met the goals of the Elevate program, as well as the connections and this new really important public improvements for the neighborhood are done well and maintained long term. So going to jump into where we're at today, where Bryant phase 1, again, that's the new street DHA had acquired from Excel, part of the tank farm there, enough to build that street. And so that street's already been completed. And as phase 2, which is the eastern part of 13th, which is we're in this one wonderful time frame of 13th bridge and 8th bridge being detours, because it's just the way we couldn't get around our timelines. But hopefully everyone can manage for a little bit longer through May. But we'll be done with that phase 2 soon after the 8th Avenue bridge is opening up. And we're maintaining here to open up the southern lane of that phase 2 once that the work to the bridge is complete. We had some issues with stormwater has to connect to the outfall in north of the 13th Avenue bridge. And so there's a lot of coordination that had to go with urban drainage flood control and, when the river was at its lowest depth. So that's all complete. And so that was a big milestone. And then, so we'll be opening that up. And the full completed work of phase 2 will be done this summer. And then the western part of 13th then goes into the spring. And then what we've done with working with the neighborhood group is to open up Holden before we jump into the intersection of phase 5, which is really the big one where we had a lot of work around that offset intersection of Holden meeting Decatur and making that flow, because there's both RTD buses going north-south and east-west. So that was a lot of back and forth of what that looked like. We looked at roundabouts, but I think we landed on a really good outcome for just creating easier traffic and with the pedestrian safety in mind as well. And we'll jump to a slide there next, but I wanted to make sure that happy to jump into any of the phasing of this, but really Bryant will be open up, Holden, and then before we get in the mess of shutting down Decatur, 13th will be complete as well.
Questions, folks? It's a complicated map, and timeline. I'm wondering if there's any community questions. Oh, I think Chris, you're doing a great job of explaining it. Thank you.
Or just being way too confusing that no one wants to ask a question. It is a complicated one with, a lot of full work from right of way, property line to property line. So, I think we've done a lot of work with the general contractor to try to make it the least disruptive to businesses and the residents here.
Yeah, and it looks like essentially everything is wrapped up by 2023, but much of it by the end of 2022.
Yeah, and that's kind of their critical path, because the Thrive project has to have, and uniquely enough, who was awarded this project is the same contractor that's building Thrive. So it's they're very motivated to finish by January or by December of this year. And I think the reason why you look at spring is because we knew that there's a lot of good landscaping. So we want to make sure the landscaping is done in a time where it's going to grow. So that's where we extended that contract to make sure it's into the springtime.
Great.
Okay. And then, I'm not sure how many people are familiar with, there's been a lot of design work around this for the last, I would say maybe 2.5 years. And Gabby with Dottie has been so great with, taking engineers and working with traffic to figure out what's the right balance between safety and just vehicle traffic, as well as RTD and how we get the turn lanes. But this is ultimately the final solution. I think it's a good one. It's going to be actually one of the first raised intersections in this type of circumstance. And I think that really with the context of multimodal flow from, again, north, south, and east, west, because it's very important for both the businesses. Glenn's Kitchen is right here on that northeast side. And we have the Mercy Decatur Place on that southwest side. And then southeast is our Sun Valley Youth Center. And then you have on the northeast side, or northwest side is Root Park Rec. So there's a lot of really great community assets all around this. And so we want to make sure this gets done right. So
Hey, Chris, could you explain to us what is a raised intersection?
yeah, sure. So you've probably seen some that are like a raised crosswalk. It's really a traffic calming measure. And the idea is that when a driver's coming up to a stop, that you're able to see even a small kid walking through the intersection, right? Because they're raised up. So as you're approaching it, it's a slight raise. It's not a very steep one, especially because RTD's bus couldn't handle much of that. But then it really is just from a vehicle standpoint, it has been proven to really help safety with really ped crossings, and even looking at, this being an important bike corridor eventually as well. So it'll be in line with, if you think of the curb, will be in line with the sidewalk across, right? Where you would typically have, a 6 to 8 inch curve that drops down. This intersection will be right at the same level as the sidewalks, if that makes sense.
So it's designed to be a safety feature for this active intersection.
Correct. And also really from a traffic, engineering standpoint, is to set them in the right. It was a really funky offset intersection. So this is a way to align that. That's why, we even had to go through the headache of acquiring that little section from Mercy, so that we could get that full public right of way, and align it so it's a little bit further south, and you have clear lines of sight, as well as the triangles that you typically want to see from looking left and right. So this makes it a much safer intersection, as well as one that's unique, and there's some art program for this, as well as lighting, to make it more of kind of a gateway element in and out of the neighborhood.
Questions, comments? Lisa had a comment in the chat. Let's see, Lisa. I believe we've been told that raised crosswalks on Colfax would cause issues for snow removal. Will this not be an issue for this raised intersection?
That's a great point. Well, in this case, we're having a district maintain this. So the housing authority is actually creating a district, and we'll be working with the city. Obviously, they're maintaining streets. So I think what you're talking about is the big plows that are coming. And again, it's not what you think of the typical raise that comes up at a much steeper angle. This is a longer raised intersection. It's coming up 8 inches over, I think it's a 6 foot fall. So it was designed that plows will not tear this up. So they can certainly plow all this. And then the sidewalks and the right of way here will be maintained by a district and its grounds crew. So we've handled that. But I think across a long corridor like Colfax, it would certainly be a lot more to consider instead of just one intersection. But it's a great point.
Thank you. Okay.
All right. Well, here's the plans that we had as part of our community advisory committee. And there's a lot of questions that I think Bailey already answered, which was they're asking about, like, well, how are we working through a combined traffic route reroute, both for the RTD bus route as well as just vehicle traffic. And so this was really to show that we've actually moved that to federal, because there was a lot of people were coming down to Cater. So that was the point of this slide, but happy to talk more. I mean, there was the bike and ped detour. I forgot that we had to close. Remember that outfall I was talking about? So that was really for this, which was just that one time of connecting this big storm pipe into the outfall on the river that was north of the 13th Avenue Bridge. So that's now complete, and you should have access along the plat now. But happy to answer any questions on that as much as I can.
Next slide, I guess.
All right. Okay, well, I'll be quick here. There's probably more to come talk to you as we really get moving here this summer on this final large infrastructure project that DHA is now moving forward and realigning the old grid. So this will bring those 5 blocks that I was showing, some of those images, which is the Sun Valley Homes proper. And this kind of overlays those blocks onto what was the original Sun Valley Homes and the old kind of suburban grid that was introduced back in the 1950s. And I think as Denver grows and learn that there's a lot of efficiencies with a standard northeast southwest grid, and really to activate the park and get a lot of those programs that happen here. So this is just showing this new plat map that we're going through the process of city council adoption right now. But the next one will kind of get to the meat of the work that will be pushing in place. So this again shows DHA's developments. Again, block 1, that's the Soul development. We have that perspective south of Fairview, and then the block 3, the Jolie and the Flow, they'll have a shared parking structure that will be wrapped by townhomes. And so you can kind of see there some of the for sale opportunities that we're creating as well.
Blocks 4 and 5 parking.
Oh, no, sorry. Block 3 there, you can see the Jolie and the incubator. There's a shared parking structure that'll be wrapped. So that's how we.
So 4 and 5 are future development.
Yep. And that's the one that we're working right now with some market rate developers to really fine tune if their proposals make sense. So once we have designs, those will be coming back to the community for input, but following our design guidelines. So
But they'll be market rate 4 and 5.
Yeah, 2, 4, and 5 will be market rate.
Okay.
Yep. Any other questions on this one? All right, this is a good slide Amy put together. So this shows all of the new work that we're doing to facilitate, both the district infrastructure, which is really on stormwater. We're doing regional detention along the park and stormwater infrastructure along the right-of-ways. That'll be kind of what you see on 14th that allow for more water quality features and picking up runoff from the streets and meeting some of those green standards. So all that work will be starting here this summer and right out of the gates to get the utilities underground. And then Denver Water has worked with us to approve plans to bring in the new lines along 10th and down Bryant, and then of course Bryant up to 11th. And that work's already been done along 11th that Denver Water recently did about 4 months ago. So all new wet utilities. And then I think the next one might have park frontage. Yep, there we go. So this, we wanted to recap on all the elements that we're really holding to in executing an intergovernmental agreement again with the city, but this will be for the design, construction, and long-term ownership of the Riverfront Park. And these are the elements that came through, and we got an estimate so that we can figure out a way to jointly solve for paying for all these great public improvements that really meet everything from the senior to the kid and everyone in between, and looking at different uses, both from community gardens, one we already have out there in partnership with Botanic Gardens, which has been great, and the larger open lawn to host events, that cultural plaza that interfaces with it, obviously natural play features, and really kind of coming back to a lot of educational opportunities for this section of the Platte River. And you can see the water play features that are there today will be expanded upon. And then of course, public art will be a big piece of that, along with native landscaping kind of buffer to the existing Platte River Trail. So happy to talk more to that, but the next slide should show us kind of how they've been programmed right now, again, from a conceptual standpoint. And we'll be picking up the formal design from, this is, we call a 30% design of 100%, which is really into schematics. And that's really where we wanted to get to make sure we can afford all these things. So there's an existing playground we're going to try to preserve, if you've been out there, interfaces with some of the natural features that are there. And then we'll expand upon Art Walk in connection to Weir Gulch. And I think this city has done a great job in getting a lot of regional support and funds to to do some natural ecology, the wetland features of Weir Gulch. So there'll be some extension of that. So we're tying into their design, but everything really from the left side is 9th, and then to the right side up to 11th is all programmed and is budgeted for right now. And so we're again going to expand upon the Grow Garden, add some more features there, have that event lawn space be interfacing with the commercial incubator, as well as our Jolie space, and then the Tranquility Garden, right, interfacing kind of the senior component, and having a lot of these activities play into what we hope a lot of people riding their bikes down Flat River come into Sun Valley. And happy to talk about any other questions on this. Well,
Yes, we're running out of time, and I don't know how many more slides.
I think this is it, actually.
That it? Okay, perfect timing. I'm just wondering, CAG members, we've given you a lot of information. We try not to do that on all one evening. We've been talking at you. We apologize for that, but we wanted to share with you both the 8th Avenue Bridge and this new development in Sun Valley. I'm wondering if you have any questions or comments, anything you'd like us to follow up on in our next meetings. Have we exhausted you?
It was a quiet group.
It's a quiet group tonight. Okay.
All
I
right.
appreciate the time.
Thank you, Chris. It was great. It's
Yeah.
really exciting to see all that's being planned.
Definitely.
Again, those of us who've been in the city for all of our lives, it's the changes, the transformation is very exciting.
Now, couldn't do without community vision. So thank you all.
That's right. Thank you. All right.
Catherine,
Yes.
last
Beth.
note for the evening, we might just mention that our next meeting for everyone is going to be on May 5th. And it is a community-wide meeting. So this will be more of a public meeting, less of a CAG meeting. And so the notices for this will be going out fairly soon. And I know that among other things, but I know at least at a minimum, we do expect the West Colfax Ped and Transit Project to be bringing their final design or 90% design. And I believe Vision Zero will also have sort of some finalization of their near-term improvements to the corridor too. So just be on the lookout for more information on this.
Thank you, Beth. Any final comments from anyone? Any questions? As always, you can recount this meeting at our website. Anthony always has it available within a week or so. If you have any questions or additional comments, you've thought of something you wanted to ask about, please don't hesitate to reach out to Anthony and we'll get your questions answered. But I really appreciate the time you gave to us tonight. I hope you learned a lot about two really important projects in the area, and we'll look forward to see you on May 5th. Thanks, everybody.
Great. Thank you all.
Thank you.
All right, Michelle, thank you.
Thanks, Michelle.
Thanks, guys. Anthony is still, he's not on, but his computer is on. So I'm going to text
Right.
David, his husband, and have him turn it off. Thanks, everybody. Have a great
Okay.
night.
Great.
Thanks, Beth. Thanks,
Thank you.
Francisco. Thanks, Nora.
Yeah. Nice
night.
job, Catherine.
Okay, everybody.
night.
See you soon.